Good morning, afternoon, actually, everyone. My name is James Solomons, Global CFO at Xref, and welcome to the CFO Lunchtime Live. Data-driven decisions in times of uncertainty is our topic today, and it is brought to you today also by our friends at Oracle NetSuite. I'm joined by Ben from Objective Corp Global CFO. Hi, Ben. How are you?
Hi, James. Well, thanks.
That's good.
Good to be here.
That's good. Thank you for joining us. Now, before we kick off, we're going to do a little bit of a poll for everybody that is joining us today. Where are you working from today? So you should see a poll pop up on the screen. I'll give you guys a few seconds to answer. Certainly, we are all working from all over the world. Here we go. Let's see. Select one of the following: home or office. Obviously, it's only two answers, so pick one or the other. If you're not in the office, then you're going to be elsewhere. So I would choose home for that one. We'll see what the results is, but certainly it's a lovely Friday here in Sydney. We've got people joining us from right across Australia and New Zealand. All right, let's see what the results are. Ben, you're joining us today from?
I'm from the office.
Yeah, from the office. There you go.
We're 50-50 on the panel, and 50-50 on the everywhere else.
Well, there you go. So look at that. 47% are at home and 53% are at the office. So it seems that the CFOs, accountants amongst us are the ones that are back in the office, probably a little bit more. Certainly at Xref, we're a fair way from getting back into the office. And I think, would your sales guys be working at home, Ben? Are they working at home?
A bit of a mix.
Too?
Yeah, a bit of a mix. Yeah, probably about 50 actually.
Well, there you go. Your Objective Corporation is in line with the number of the results from the attendees. So let's get into it. Don't want to talk around where we're working from too much today because we've all got jobs to do. Hope everyone's got their lunch. Whether they're sitting in the office or they are at home. So Ben, to kick off, do you want to tell me a little bit about your role and who Objective Corporation is?
Sure. Yes, I'm the CFO at Objective Corporation. Objective Corporation is a global organisation, as you mentioned. We operate predominantly, though, in Australia, New Zealand, and UK. Objective is a supplier of process automation and governance solutions for the public sector. We have a heritage in electronic document management, but over time have developed a suite of products that allow our customers to deliver better outcomes to the communities that they serve, which are really you and me. Our customers are those people who deliver all of our essential services across all three levels of government. I guess some key points about Objective. We're obviously a software company. Over the last 5 years, we've made a transition from a perpetual right to use model to a subscription-based revenue model, and that's had all the challenges that has brought. We've also done a number of acquisitions over the last 4 years. We've acquired 4 companies in the last 4 years. And overall, our revenue's grown from about $50 million back in 2016, and going into FY21, we're looking at a run rate of about 85 million. So there's been some pretty rapid growth in our revenue over that time.
Fantastic. And you guys are listed on the ASX, ticker OCL.
That is correct.
Very good. Certainly, thanks for your time today. I mean, obviously, you, like me, and like our rest of our colleagues in the listed space, are well and truly into audit and reporting seasons. How's that going?
Sure. Yeah. Look, I think it's always a tense time of year. For our sins, we closed one of those acquisitions on the 1st of July, so it's been a busy period. But you know, perhaps relevant to today's conversation, we do have some pretty good systems in place that have allowed us to produce a training update, which we released on the 15th of July. So that really takes some of the pressure off from us from a reporting perspective, getting those unaudited numbers out in those sort of 10 working days. So yeah, now all the detailed work begins. All the things that perhaps don't get as much focus from the board and the the investment community, but obviously very important parts of statutory obligations. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's where we're focused now.
Absolutely, it's the certainly. I think everybody would agree because they're all accountants. No one really knows just how much work goes into that large document. So I suppose,
right.
you ticked a little box there of one of the questions I'm going to ask later on around the technology, and certainly that's going to be a focus. But before we jump onto that, apart from getting through audit and reporting season, what's some of the challenges CFOs are sort of facing today? And it's up to you whether you want to give it a COVID aspect or just generally with
sure.
the changing nature of business.
Yeah, well, I think they're sort of related. I mean, I think one of the things that's really been important in recent months has been maintaining the efficiency of your team when you're not all together, and maintaining that high level of quality when you're not sitting next to each other. You don't hear people making comments that you can correct, and all of those sort of things that come from being in a team environment. And I think that's one of the really highlights one of the really important things about being a CFO, and that is making the company's overall mission relevant to your team, and then having all of your team buy into that, buy into those outcomes, and realise what their place in delivering that is. And that's never been more important than when you don't see them for a period of time, and you're still relying upon them at home with all of their other considerations been over this time of managing their children or other obligations that they have. Still having that understanding of what they need to deliver, and how they're contributing to that overall goal and why it's important. So I think that's never been more important. So I guess what's the CFO's role in that, and that's taking the company mission and making it relevant to the people in your team. And I think that's obviously been critical.
Absolutely.
One of the other things that we've really tried to maintain our focus on has been the momentum on projects. There is always projects going on in our team, and I'm sure in many other finance teams. And those projects typically relate to process improvement or new software products implementing. There'll be other areas of the business that are implementing line of business software that we need to ensure that we're across to ensure it integrates correctly with the GL, and you can't lose sight of that, because we've got an overall ambition of where we want the finance function to be, and in order to get there, we need to be continuing to put those bricks in the wall, irrespective of the fact that we're in the office or not. That's really important to continue on with that. And that I think brings us to one of the other things that I guess is an overall overriding sort of subject for today's conversation, that with the ability to be able to manage data systems and integrate those systems and have the outputs sitting next to each other and reconcilable back to one another, and all of those other things are also becoming an increasingly important part of the CFO role. And I think we're all facing those challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great answer. I think that certainly the challenges have not gone down in light of COVID and the bushfires and just generally the global economy. And I think all of those other things have to continue, the projects and all the streamlining. I mean, I know from my team, these things were high on priority around February and March, and obviously for us,
Sure.
things got in the way. And I think for many of our listeners today, it's the same. But you know, we've got to continue to move forward, albeit with reduced budget sometimes, or with added pressures. So that's good. Now, just a note for anybody listening in. At the end of today's session, we will have a chance to maybe answer some questions. So in your GoToWebinar, you can ask some questions, and we'll get to those at the end and answer those. But if you've got something that you think about and want to get some more information as we're going along, then please feel free to drop it into the chat box. So we chatted the other day, Ben and I, about sort of the objective journey and Ben's journey in there. I don't want to dwell too much on prior to your time there, but do you want to just give us a quick rundown of the technology side of the business and the business model and how it was working, and sort of maybe what you've done in the last couple of years, which is what your focus has been?
Yeah, sure. So, you know, we have our accounting system, NetSuite, which was implemented in 2011, which was a fairly early installation of NetSuite in Australia, and it was done, you know, to a really high standard, and we got some at that time, you know, as our predecessors noted, like we got some really good outcomes from that transition. But I think it's over a period of time as you know, the business moved on and personnel changed. There probably wasn't kept as up to date with where the business is at. And so what has been a real focus since I joined has been trying to put in place a long-term technology plan around best-in-class systems integrated back to a central GL, and then going on and just over time building that out. That project, I think, you know, with hindsight, we thought we'll do this all in a year. It's probably taken 4, and I can't say that we've finished that yet. And what we have done though is at each point assessed where the greatest risks have been in the business and in the way that we produce the accounts, and tried to see how technology can assist us to mitigate or remove those risks. I mean, for us, one of the critical ones was for our professional services business. We have a professional services business that turns over between $10 and $15 million a year, and that business was run on a professional services management system that didn't integrate into NetSuite, and so all that integration was managed through spreadsheets, and those spreadsheets would create an asset in the balance sheet, you know, some years of six or more million, and that used to give me real nerves when it came to producing the accounts, because, you know, if there's an error in the spreadsheet, you know, you've got to go and work it out. So we implemented, the first thing we did was implemented a professional services management software called OpenAir, which integrates deeply into NetSuite, and that has been incredibly beneficial for us. One of the other areas that I think that we focused on was the expenses and AP management. We sell to our customers as part of our process the benefits of a paperless office and the ability to manage a distributed workforce, and we were still reliant upon, you know, paper invoices for many things, and records. So the other thing that we did was to implement a software called Concur, which we also integrated into NetSuite, and that's had innumerable benefits for us in terms of controls, efficiency of processing, and also probably not part of the business case, but really important from my perspective has been that it's taken away a lot of work for people in the finance team that they don't like doing, and things like credit card reconciliations, standing at the printer, scanning invoices, doing other things like that, which aren't the things you go and study, and do your CA to do. That you want to be able to ensure that you can give your staff the ability to do the more high level work, and so making sure that you can replace those tasks with technology is really important for those reasons. But we've also then we've been looking at other systems, and we've also have now started using NetSuite's API connector to extract data directly out of NetSuite, and similarly extract data out of Salesforce, and really have a much more data-driven financial reporting framework, where when things are errors or things turn up as errors, you don't just fix it in a spreadsheet and have always that that adjustment. It forces you to go back to the data source and make sure that the data is correct. And that's why your finance team gets into all these other things that that they aren't otherwise involved in. So my team is now all over Salesforce in our organization, because we're taking those numbers, we're putting them next to finance numbers, and whenever you put something in a board report next in the finance section, there's a higher level of reconciliation that's expected, and so that's really lifted the level of data quality in those systems as well. So that's been an important change as well.
Yeah, that's always my argument to the business. I'm like, if it sits in my board reports or it's in my annual report, it's my responsibility, and you need to give me that information. I mean, I always talk about, and I've done it on this forum, the CFO series, and in previous lives with Xero. Finance is really the data custodians, and ultimately we're in that privileged position where we generally tend to get all of the data that's coming into the business. We get access to all of it, whereas different divisions only have access to their own. I think that that getting that across the rest of the business is always a challenge. I think I've got sort of two questions that'll be in quick succession, but I'll ask them one at a time. Certainly, the changes you've made in the last little period of time. I mean, has that allowed you guys to be really agile? And look, from a COVID perspective, you can't stand at a printer and scan invoices, as you say. So things like that, you could continue to do. But certainly, has the whole data at the fingertips allowed you guys to sort of sail through what's been a challenging time for the world globally?
Yeah, for sure. And I think that one of the things that's really helped us is that we had those systems in place, and you don't realize until you're not all getting together, as I said, as a leadership team, to go over the numbers. It's only often it's because of those meetings that you have with people that you gather information around the forecast and what they expect from an operational perspective to come out, and they're managing that in their systems, and so they're living in. Salesforce is important. They're living in their CRM, and they're updating there, and that's a really live data system. And in order to but it's got lots of really rich information for a finance team, particularly when you're trying to forecast or you're trying to estimate at the end of the year where your close is going to be. And even, equally, we concur, like people are out there spending on credit cards, and, you're capturing that information immediately, and you can create an accrual on the end of the month that is really accurate. And so what you're getting is the ability to produce reports that are automated, but also really draw out information from lots and lots of different sources, and consolidate them. And so, people who are at a senior level, and particularly the sort of CEO level, they can see exactly where, our CEO, he's got numbers in his mind, and he wants to know, are the numbers out of the business bearing to that? And, if you've got the data coming through and automatically, putting those numbers next to each other, you can see when they're starting to diverge, and that prompts the need for a conversation. So, during COVID, when people, as I said, when people aren't in the office, having the data there that you can run through, it's always consistent. You know what you're going to get. You have much more efficient meetings, and you have much more efficient exchange of information.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, everyone, I can see some questions coming through, and we will definitely get to those answers at the end. They won't be too challenging for you, Ben. I think, would you agree that certainly in the last 5 years, I certainly know that my role's definitely changed. Would you agree that, firstly, that the CFO role's evolved, and on the technology side, I mean, we were talking a bit about, you said you came in and you thought it'd take 1 year to make the changes, and it's taken 4. Do you agree in that sense that it's now just a continuous improvement process? It's just never, it's like a transformation anymore. It's not just you put in a new system and you leave it. It's just continually updating these things. And has that effectively helped change the role of the CFO and the CFO's office?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, look, I think it's probably, I mean, I think probably as how's it changed over the last 5 years, I think it's different to what my expectations were, starting in the role. I didn't realize how much it would be a technology, really a professional technology buyer role as well. Yeah. You need to have a sense of what's out there, what are they capable of doing, why you do and don't want them, and where do these sit in levels of priority against other opportunities that we've got to do system implementations. I mean, your team is always going to have month end, and you need to be able to get them some space to dedicate to these projects, and so you need to be very careful about prioritizing, what's going to give the biggest payoff, and so that's been but you're right. It is a constant change, and I think, as I said, you sort of feel like you're just building bricks into a wall, and you're not quite sure what you're building. You hope it's beautiful, but you're after a period of time, when you've got that focus on your team on process improvement, you've got to keep looking for new ways to do things better. After 2-3 years, there's a lot of effort has been applied and a lot of intellect applied to the problems, and you get some really great outcomes.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, I think that's been really important. I mean, I think, I think it's always been. I think one of the things that people often raise as being what's changed has been, becoming a business partner for the organisation, and I think that that's probably true. I think the CFO has always been a central decision-making point in any business. Profitability tends to be an important outcome for most companies, and it always has been. And so, your ability to go into all of those meetings that you have with marketing and with sales and product development in our business, and take a finance lens to that, to those meetings, but then also come back and be able to take all of the data that's flying around the organisation and distill it in a way that is relevant to each of those
Absolutely.
individual business leads, and not just them as the people who are managing business, but also them in terms of taking into consideration their sort of strengths and weaknesses as a business manager. And you really need to get a very personal relationship with those people who are your internal customers. And so, look, I think that's only going to be, more so. There's very few other points in the organisation, well, maybe certainly in our organisation, where all of that data flows through centrally. That isn't the CEO, and so you've got an important role as the CFO of being the collator and the interpreter of a huge amount of information, so that you can translate what the CEO wants through a finance lens to give back down to the business units, but also identify where operational issues exist in each business unit and translate those up to the CEO and the board.
Absolutely.
And in our organisation, translate it externally as well to shareholders, which I think is a different challenge. I don't know if it's a new challenge, but it's a different one.
It's a different one, yeah. I like to call it humanising the numbers, because traditional marketers, they don't know numbers. New age digital marketers tend to have a good focus on ROI and all that sort of spend, but certainly putting it in languages that the different divisions understand, so you can drive the outcomes. I think a good question on that then is, you're talking about what's required. What are some of those skills that the CFO and finance leads of the future are going to need to develop to succeed, both on the social human side as well as potentially that technology side?
Yeah, well, I think the number one is you've got to be able to motivate a team. Like, that is, you cannot do the job, as I think anyone who is on this call would realise. You can't do the job without exceptional talent at every level, and so you need to be able to motivate them and to get them to understand where their contribution fits into the greater goal. One of the things that's really been important for us has been data quality. And, you say, well, of course, but, you need everyone from the most junior employee right through to CFO to be looking at situations with that lens. And if they don't, all of it falls apart. There's no point if the data entry is incorrect. So, I mean, I think as we talked about as well, you've got to be able to be in every meeting to bring value to those meetings with lots of different people in the organisation, and that means being aware of what their systems are, what numbers are they looking at, what operational metrics are they seeing, and how can you use those to translate through to your numbers, rather than just waiting for the end when they come out of the GL. And as I think we've said, we've covered in detail. I mean, you've got to be across the data, the systems, and the data.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's probably, we're not finished, everyone, but what I am going to do is answer some of these questions because they're quite relevant before we sort of get into some of the closing questions. So one of the ones that's come through is, so Ben, did you look at NetSuite's procure to pay module before going with Concur? And what were your main drivers for using Concur as opposed to the other options?
Sure. Look, at the time, I guess I don't think we considered as much NetSuite's procure to pay. I'm not sure if it is as, I don't know if it was as fully developed, or at that time it didn't come into consideration. Maybe I didn't do my market sweep quite enough. But I think one of the things that carefully not to disparage purchase to pay,
no, of course.
procure to pay, but it is. I was looking for what is the best in breed, and I felt at the time that what was offered to us, that what Concur was best in class, and it was used by some of the largest organisations. But what was a critical aspect of it to get it across the line as of choice was that it integrated with NetSuite, and that is one of the benefits of NetSuite, is that you go out and you can find these, for your use case.
Absolutely.
What's the best in breed, and can you integrate that? And then look, when we did the consulting services software, we looked at the numbers, and OpenAir is a NetSuite product, but was best in class as well. So, being able to select from all of those options is great.
Yeah, absolutely. Well answered. And so, we are very thankful
Very
for
diplomatic.
the support of the series today. But certainly, I've been in this space a long time as well, particularly in the Xero world, and there are many products for each thing, and certainly at an individual business case decision, you make that decision to put something in. But NetSuite, like the Xeros and the other great products, they integrate into other products, and that's what makes them such a great base solution for other places. Next question. Yeah. So when you say data-driven decisions, Ben, do you use any specific BI tool when you import data from NetSuite for your visualizations and the like?
Yeah, look, it's a good question. We have no is the short answer. We have looked at a number of times at different data visualization tools. I guess because I have well, no, I mean, I have a sort of a background using Excel. We have someone in our team who has been able to utilize, the sort of the very advanced functionality of Excel in terms of, using Power Query and other, data model type structures, which I think is one of the benefits of using a BI tool. We were already kind of using databases, but then applying an Excel shell over the top. I think that the reason has been is that one, that it gives you a great degree of flexibility and ability to share the information in a format that people understand in terms of Excel. And it also is important for me that we're not beholden to a different skill set that is quite specific. Excel is a broad-based skill, and I guess the nature of the organisation of Objective is, we're not big enough to have like a specialist in X reporting tool. You really need someone who you need to be able to get someone who is great at a product, which is a general one.
Yep. No, there's many businesses. I mean, at Xref, we have a data scientist who's a specialist in Tableau, but he's come for other reasons for a lot of the AI in our platform, and he's a machine learning specialist who happens to be fantastic at Tableau, and we use Einstein now in Salesforce and the like. And if it was me having to learn it, that certainly it'd take a long time.
Well, that's right. It's a whole new syntax.
That's it. And all I would get is a bar graph, which I could get in Excel. That's sort of the thing. I agree. So the last question that I had come through was a bit more about maybe some HR related, well, I'll ask the question. So Ben, when changing professional services software platforms, was there any resistance from the professional services team themselves? And if so, how did you overcome this?
Yeah, huge amount. And to be honest, I think I probably got the benefit of being the new guy on the scene when we were doing it, because I'd tried a few times before, and because of that resistance from the from the professional services division had not been able to get it over the line. I mean, credit to NetSuite, they did a great job in selling it and taking the time to deal with the concerns specifically of the consulting team. But there was, you know, it's a change management thing, right? And that, you know, it was getting them to make the decision, but which was really important. Yeah, look, it had huge benefits for finance, but it had huge benefits for Objective, and I think that was where we got it across the line, is that the consulting business recognised the overall benefits for the company, rather than, you know, this is just my system and, you know, I need to do it. Sorry, I don't want to change.
Yeah. No, it is a challenge sometimes. It's like, well, if it ain't broke for us, why fix it? But certainly, you're probably lucky there that they, maybe with some pushing, might have seen the benefit to the entire organisation. So.
Well, it's about, yeah. I mean, it's about, you know, like we were able to say to them, you know, you're going to get much higher quality, faster reporting. You're going to have better visibility over your business. You know, you won't have to spend time doing these spreadsheets. And yeah, you know, I think through a combination of stubbornness and of addressing those concerns first, you know, you got it across the line.
Yeah, exactly. I certainly think quite often it's always making it about them to a degree, and sort of going, well, this is what you're going to get. These are the benefits, and I think when people can see that, it makes a big difference. Well, that answered those three questions. If anyone else has got any other questions, please flick them through in the chat boxes. So as we're getting towards the end, Ben, it's been a good chat. We've talked a lot about the data, but certainly that visibility is critical. And is that, you know, certainly in the short and going forward, as you guys are projecting forward, I mean, is that really helping you guys make decisions, having that robust system there now, and it's starting to connect and everything? That's really making a difference.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, one of the things that, as I said, is important is that in an organisation, like most organisations, have a relative level of hierarchy, and you need to find ways to get that information out of everybody when, you know, it's not necessarily coming through a filter. Like you need the data, and you need the raw data, and you've got to and then be able to use that to work out where the business is going. And so I think that's one of the you know, it absolutely allowed us to make better decisions, because we're getting information really quickly, really early reads on how things are changing in the business. And I think going forward, particularly as we go further towards a subscription model, it becomes ever more important. Like it's a change right across the organisation from you know, one-time sales to subscription models, and that is a process that, you know, really means that all of the business functions need to really work very closely together to go to the customer with a integrated experience that delivers a high level of customer, you know, a high level of customer success. Each person in the organisation owns that relationship, and so whoever touches the customer owns that relationship. And so, you know, finance is a big part of, you know, interaction with that customer, and you know, it doesn't. It means that the finance team is not making errors because they don't have the information at their fingertips. They're able to also facilitate information getting out to the people who are more regularly engaging with those customers. So, you know, our sales team, our customer success team, and our support team, all these people, you know, you've got to have data going around the organisation and visible to people, so that they all are approaching the customer as a cohesive unit rather than, you know, embarrassing themselves by saying something that, right. I spoke to that. I spoke to that person. That doesn't give a good customer outcome.
No, absolutely. Had another quick question come through. It's probably a nice short one for you. So, what payroll HR solution are you using here in Australia?
We use a software called Infinite Cloud in Australia, New Zealand, and UK, which is deeply integrated into NetSuite and has given us great outcomes. We also are in the process of implementing an HRIS called Elmo, which
I know the guy.
Right. Which we're sort of early days in that, but that's and again, you know, but we're looking forward to you know, the ability to integrate some of that HR information into NetSuite. Again, you know, like there's all these individual decisions happening out in the organisation, and they filter through spreadsheets and emails and all these other things back into the payroll system. You know, we need a better way of capturing those changes in a light.
And exactly. So that was Infinite Cloud, was it? Yeah, Infinite Cloud. I'll have to check them out. And as I say, Elmo, it's a good product. I know the guys well, as I said. So I suppose in sort of wrapping up, I mean, it's a bit of a more general question, but what have been sort of 2 or the 3 most important things that you've learned about your business, your team, and sort of life in general as we've navigated the last few months, you know, in a new world, which could be the new normal? Who knows, really?
Yeah,
sure. Some of the important things that you've learned in this last few months?
Yeah, I mean, I think look, I've mentioned it a few times, but I think, you know, what's been hard has been maintaining the cultural structures, or the culture that you try to create in an office environment, and transferring that to a workforce that don't see each other. And that I think is what has been one of the things that you know, has been challenging. The other thing is that, you know, things can't stop, and you know, we've got a lot of projects continuing to go on, and you've got to switch to that way of you know, remote delivery or remote acceptance, I guess, because we're being the buyer of projects, and internally as well. You know, you need to continue to focus on those. I think, look, as you said, I think it might be the new normal, and I think personally, you know, it's been fantastic being able to work from home regularly, see my kids a lot more, and my wife, of course.
Absolutely.
And you know, but having all of the ability to just, you know, and this is, you know, partly a result of, you know, Objective products, NetSuite's products, all these other product providers. I haven't even, never has it been a systems problem. It's just, you log on in the office, you know, you work away, you don't plug your computer, you go home, plug it back in, start back up where you work away. And, you know, the importance of being able to do that is just critical. It's going to become more critical. And if you don't have the ability to do that, you know, I think this time has highlighted the need to do it, and do it quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. I think certainly in summary, it's you know, you've got to be agile in your technology solutions to and this sort of lockdowns could happen again, you need to have your data or data, however I tend to pronounce it differently, and depending on what time of the day it is, your data or data connected, so that you have that visibility over your own division in finance and certainly the other divisions, and to be able to sort of go to the leaders with information that is relevant. And definitely, it's always important to motivate and keep our teams engaged in what we're doing, but certainly the challenge of being a little bit more disconnected than normal is certainly meant that us as the leaders need to keep them engaged and motivated remotely. And there's lots of challenges to do that, but certainly that is definitely going to be the new normal, because I know in our office we've already decided we'll only be in the office a couple of days a week. Everyone's sort of gotten used to working from home, and we'll never be back full time 5 days a week, which I know for some will be that may go back to that, but for some it will be the new normal, where you get a bit more flexibility, and that will change the nature of that HR relationship.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Well, Ben, thank you for your time today. It has been a pleasure. I certainly think that everybody that has stayed on for the full 45 has gotten plenty out of the discussion. For everybody that has joined today or registered that didn't get on, they will get a recording of today's session. They'll have a contact for NetSuite in there. If you've got any questions for Ben or I, send them through to richard@cfoseries.com, and he will be sure to pass them on. Or, I'm sure Ben's the same, although I don't want to answer for you, but, feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn and shoot us questions there. I'm always happy to answer there. I think that it's always good to be supporting one another as we move through not only audit and reporting season, but whatever the next new normal looks like. So Ben, thanks again. Thank you to Oracle NetSuite for their support of CFO at Lunchtime Live, and we look forward to catching up with everybody again, either face-to-face or online sometime again soon. Thanks, everyone.
Great. Thanks, James.